The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Yep. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Thursday, March 2nd, 2017. Thank you so much for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here with us, and I do appreciate it. Special thanks to all of our patrons, everyone who supports the show on a regular basis, and even those who you may not be able to support financially, but you are there sharing our content. We appreciate it. Appreciate it, not just appreciate it. Anyway. Forget it. We have a couple of interviews coming up tonight, a lot of stories to cover. And of course, you know, we have to discuss.
As a former federal prosecutor for 12 years, attorney general for 2 years, I know and believe very deeply in the rule of law and the fact that honest and testimony is required if we're to have justice in America. So the problem...
Jeff Sessions discussing the problem with Bill Clinton's testimony and the problem with perjury and the problem with not being honest when you're under oath. Jeff Sessions, who has now had to recuse himself because he has been caught lying to the American people, but specifically under oath to the Senate. I want to play the clip of the exchange between Jeff Sessions and Al Franken. And this is the crux of what went wrong for Jeff. I wanted to say Jefferson Davis, but it's not Jefferson Davis. It's Jefferson Beauregard Sessions. Let's play that clip and then we'll discuss it. Here we go.
CNN just published a story alleging that the intelligence community provided documents to the president-elect last week that included information that, quote, Russian operatives claimed to have compromising personal and financial information about Mr. Trump. These documents also allegedly stated, quote, there was a continuing exchange of information during the campaign between Trump surrogates and intermediaries for the Russian government. Now, again, I'm telling you this as it's coming out, so, you know.
Yeah, but we don't know Al Franken.
If it's true, it's obviously extremely serious. And if there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
All right. So that turned out not to be true, according to a report from the Washington Post that came out late last night. Jeff Sessions actually did have several meetings with the Russian ambassador. And so, you know, we get into the parsing of what it is to have a meeting. We get into the parsing of but whatever you want to say. The fact of the matter is, here under oath, he said that he did not meet with anyone, and in fact, he actually did. I'm actually joined by Professor Matt Sienkiewicz. We have a lot of conversations to have in a minute about some other things, but Matt, since you're in studio with me, what do you think about that? How did you take that?
It should be remarkable, right? It should be a surprising event, but given what we've seen over the past months, it's not so surprising. I mean, it's not so different from what we got out of the Flynn story. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the real thing to talk about here is why.
Right.
What is the motive here? I mean, is it just pure incompetence, right? Is it just that he literally doesn't realize the Russian ambassador would qualify for this, right?
Right. So
It seems unlikely.
Yeah,
right?
it seems
like we need to find a motive.
It seems well, and I've heard people try to say, well, it's okay. It's he did it because he was afraid of the Democrats, and the Democrats are making this big McCarthy neo McCarthy push, and I've heard a lot of people give, and when I say a lot of people, Twitter, right? Social media, blogs, people are saying these types of things. Some progressives, and I find that so fatuous. The reason I find that fatuous is because that's not an excuse I'd let my kids get away with.
Right.
You're not going to come to tell me and say you lied to me because you were afraid of the punishment you would get if you had told me the truth. You just compounded the problem, So even if he was afraid of the hysteria, which I agree, the Democrats have been rather hysterical with regard to Russia. Sure, we should investigate, but some people are going a little too far with their tenor, their tone, and what they want done. But that's not an excuse for anyone to lie under oath. What do you think?
No, I mean, for one, the analogy with your kids almost works, except this is a guy who's supposed to be representing the United States
Exactly.
in a legal capacity, right?
Right.
I mean, if your kids were in charge of making the grounding rules and they went and broke it, right? This is like it's beyond, it's far
Exactly.
beyond that, right? So you wouldn't let anybody get away with it. I mean, two, yeah, you're right. There is a tendency. I mean, look, the Russia angle has been the sort of the most successful one that the Democrats have found in order to push back, in order to sort of gain points in the public sphere about Trump. And so, I mean, sure, I could understand if he gave a response saying, "Yeah, look, I met with him, but really," and if he was defensive about it, or if he
Right.
even if he downplayed it, right? This would be honest-ish, right, truthy ways of getting across what had actually happened. Instead, he just outright lies, and so
Yeah.
I think you have to ask why.
Right.
Right? Why did
Right.
Flynn lie?
Right.
Why did Sessions lie?
Because honestly, let's think about it. Like what, if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. There's no reason to lie. If what drives me crazy about this entire scenario is with many controversies, it's not the actual action, the act that becomes the thing that takes you down. It's the lie. It's the fact that he perjured himself. He could literally have talked about Russian prostitutes with the premier, or not the premier. I'm sorry, with the ambassador.
Yeah.
So far from the premier, but a couple of generations.
Yep.
But anyway, he could have been talking about vodka. But whatever they talked about, and for whatever reason, he chose not to be forthcoming to the. Do you think in any way possible it could have been? And I think this is an irrelevant question, but I'm forced to ask it. Do you think it was just that he was just in a moment of incompetence, just a moment of a brain lapse, or what? I mean, because it's obvious.
Yeah.
You could almost see it if you watch the video. You could see his demeanor change after he lied.
Yeah.
And then it said, "I can't discuss it." So
Right.
to me, it looks like he realized it right away. The only question is, how did he let himself get there in the first place?
Right. Well, I mean, if he realized it right away, then he could have fixed it right away.
He could have. Good. Yeah. Good point.
I mean, the simplest, clearest explanation seems to me, where you don't have to theorize any vast conspiracies, is to simply say there is secrecy in that campaign, in that world, regarding the relationship between Trump and the Russians.
Yeah.
Maybe it's secret because they are, for all we know, doing nothing wrong, but they're afraid of how people will interpret it or whatever. But whatever the case might be, right? I suspect something more, in all honesty, but it's just my suspicion. I don't want to speculate.
Okay.
But
do me a favor, move a little closer to your microphone because you're saying some good stuff. I want to make
Okay.
sure we pick
No,
it all
sorry
up.
about that.
So you suspect something more. I suspect that it's like I don't think that they're in cahoots with the Russian government. I mean, for what purposes
Well, it
would they
depends what
need
you
to?
mean. Let me push on you just for a minute.
Okay.
So if you mean in cahoots,
Hold on. This is my show.
I
You can
know.
push on me.
You brought me in studio. Though,
Okay,
right?
go for it. Push back.
No. It's just,
Push back.
I just want to clarify what you mean, right? So you don't think they're in cahoots, and as in you don't think that they were scheming together to do these hacks and this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I don't see
yeah.
I don't see that there would have been any benefit for Russia or for the Trump campaign to coordinate on the hacks.
Sure.
whatsoever.
So yeah, if that's what you mean, yeah, that's a perfectly that makes sense. What about just in terms of these being like-minded campaigns, like-minded rooms?
I mean, I don't see in that case, I don't see anything wrong with those conversations, right? They're going to find like-minded people across. The only thing that's wrong with that conversation is when it goes beyond the scope that you're legally authorized, like Michael Flynn. He wasn't legally authorized to talk about the sanctions at the time that he talked about it. But if they're, hey, we're right-wing, nationalist, xenophobic, and hey, we found some comrades over in Russia, no pun intended. I don't see anything wrong with that. So why hide it?
Right. Well, no, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, sure. I mean, there's a lot wrong with what you just said, but not in a legal sense, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, I think that's right. There clearly seems to have been at least some jumping of the gun, right? At least in the case of Flynn, we see that, right? It seems fair maybe not to assume, but fair to consider the possibility that there is a similar jumping of the gun with regards to Sessions in this case, or any other context, right? Things that maybe he was not authorized to say at the time when he was there, or I mean, we don't know these things, right? At the very least, we know that there is a sense in that campaign you don't go public with this stuff, right? And this is a case where under oath he didn't go public with something which was completely legal. Right. That's I guess where you're getting at, and where it gets confusing. Flynn did something. He said something before he could say it. Sessions didn't. We don't know that.
As far as we know,
we have no evidence of that, right? And so it's hard not to, with this precedent, with the context in which we see it, and with at the very least, this is an administration which is much cozier and friendlier to the Russian government than we've seen in a while.
So let me push back there. I don't see anything wrong with that, right?
Yeah,
I don't see anything wrong. I mean, if for us to have a cozy relationship with Russia, my only question is, what does it take for us to have that cozy relationship, right?
Yeah.
What do we have to who do we have to turn our back on? What nation do we have to just kind of wink wink with Vladimir Putin? Those are the things that matter. But just to have a cozy relationship with them is totally fine. I mean, to have a conversation with an ambassador.
In a legal sense, you think it's fine, or you think it's fine? Like, it doesn't make you uncomfortable to have a cozy relationship with the Russians in a more general sense.
I would rather have a cozy relationship with them than to have an antagonistic relationship with them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
but again, what does it cost us? Like, what do we have to do for that cozy relationship? If it means that we have to undermine, how many 70 years of global order with NATO, then I have a huge problem with that coziness.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
What does it cost for us to maintain a cozy relationship with Russia? And maybe cozy is not the best word to use there. Right.
Right.
But what does it require for us to have better relationships with Russia? My only question is, what is the cost? I'm totally for us having great relationships with whoever, but what is it going to cost us, right? And from the looks of who Vladimir Putin is, it's going to cost. So that's why we're here. That's why we're having these conversations. What did they talk about? Why is it that they couldn't be transparent with it? And what role did Russia actually have? I don't have any problems on either side of the equation. No. We should investigate.
Sure. Yeah.
No question. Like, I'm totally on board with the investigation. At the same time, we don't have to run headlong into a full-blown confrontation over some email hacks. If Russia, if Russia hacked our voting machines, which no one is saying they did.
That's important, right? Right. That's a big bit of misinformation.
Right. So because that's kind of out there, but some people are floating that around.
Well, it's not. There's no evidence whatsoever.
Right. There's no evidence. But let's say they went that far.
Yeah.
That's escalating. That's the escalation that is totally different than someone clicking on a phishing email and not really knowing what the heck they're doing on Gmail. I don't know what John Pedersen was thinking.
Right.
So there's a big difference there, but there's a hysteria that is underneath the Democratic Party that does drive a portion of this. And what I'm saying is both sides of the equation really are making the situation a lot worse than it has to be. Let's do an investigation and see what the investigation yields and then respond and then say something. But you have Flynn, you have Sessions, you have Trump, who are disguising what they're doing. They're not being forthcoming. They're not being honest. It's clear they're not being honest. And then on the opposite side, you have Democrats who are really fueling a lot of Russia hysteria, when I think in this context, the hysteria should be the attorney general, the sitting attorney general lied to America. that's more important right now than the fact that he had a conversation with the Russian ambassador, depending on the context of that conversation.
Yeah, no, I think I think that right there seems about right. I mean, the long-term cost.
Of course, it's right. It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
right.
It's right. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, this is a realm, and it's worth noting both sides of this, both the Trump administration, what we've seen over the past months, and Russia for a long time have employed tactics of misinformation at a pretty vast scale.
Yeah.
Right. The Trump administration is constantly giving us contradictory information.
Yeah.
Changing a story, saying one thing, and then offering a totally different one the next day.
Yep.
There's little question that if you look at the way that the Russians, for example, have approached issue with Ukraine. And in the Donbass, or with regards to MH17, the flight that got shot down, they have waged large and wide-scale misinformation campaigns. Other people have as well. But they have done this.
I mean, we have. America.
Yeah, for sure. Right. That said, so these are two entities that are really have proven very, I don't know if adept is the right word necessarily, but willing to engage in vast misinformation campaigns. You throw something like this in here where you get a lie. And on the one hand, it seems to me most likely that, it's some paranoia, could be some forgetfulness, could be, he doesn't want to talk about it, he thought he'd get away with it or something like that. Right. But you put it in the context of two places which have been engaging in such misinformation that it's hard not to let your mind wander a bit.
Oh, it's easy for me not to wonder. Let me tell you why it's easy for me not to wonder.
Tell me.
It's easy for me not to wonder because I don't want to go so far with speculations, and it's just irresponsible for me to go. It's so run off with speculations in either direction. So for me, it really is a matter of what do we have evidence of right now?
Yeah.
What do we have evidence of right now is that Jeff Beauregard Sessions lied. And Jeff Beauregard Sessions, I'm going to play this clip. I think this is the actual clip that I wanted to play. Lying is very important to Jeff Sessions. Let's listen in to Jeff.
Well, people say the Republicans. People see things differently than just what party you belong to. I am concerned about a president under oath being alleged to have committed perjury. I hope that he can rebut that and prove that did not happen. I hope he can show he did not commit obstruction of justice and that he can complete his term. But there are serious allegations that occurred. And in America, in the Supreme Court and the American people believe no one is above the law. The president has gotten himself into this fix that is very serious. I intend to give him an absolutely fair trial.
I mean, there you go. I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said. Jeff Sessions has made the best case that I have heard for why, no matter what the quality or the scale of the lie, we're talking about, whatever he had a conversation about with the Russian ambassador compared to Bill Clinton's lie about infidelity. So no matter the scale or the scope of the lie, he needs to answer for the mess that he curated for himself. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. He makes a clear case, right? The system requires we at least have the impression of honesty, right? If somebody gets caught in a lie, there is a definite need to address it, right? It seems so obvious, right? And part of the problem is that I do think that we have become a little bit unclear as to often when our leaders, our president, our administration, when they are being honest or when they have to be honest. There's a lot of context in which Trump has made it acceptable not to be honest, but not under oath.
Right.
It's really simple.
Can we draw the line? Can we draw the line somewhere, people? So I'm all over the place in terms of what I actually care about in the story. The other thing that I do care about are the numbers of people that I see trying to say that this lie isn't big enough for this fiasco. And if we don't draw the line with someone lying under oath, then what's the entire point of our justice system in the first place? I mean, how many people? Martha Stewart went to jail for perjury, right? I mean, how many people? This is the highest ranking law enforcement official in the country, and people are willing to say, oh, it wasn't significant enough. First of all, they don't have enough evidence to say that.
Right.
Second of all, does it matter? He is the highest ranking official. You lied. In fact, recusal for me is not enough. You lied under oath. This is for me simply because based on the principle, based on his own principle that he outlined for Bill Clinton. he should resign. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, he makes it perfectly clear there that there is an issue of being above the law, right? And he accused Bill Clinton of finding himself above the law. Here is a case in which if he wants to hold to this principle, he's going to have to hold his own feet to the fire.
Exactly.
I mean, it seems pretty simple. Look, the defense, right? There is a defense. The defense is that he somehow forgot, right? If he's willing to come out and say that, then we can at least deal with that. I think that sounds like a pretty radical incompetence to me, to forget your conversation with the Russian ambassador.
Yeah, well, Claire McCaskill didn't help that case out much today. Did you see what happened with her?
No, tell me.
So she tweeted out that she's never had a meeting with the Russian ambassador. She's never even taken a call with him. And then it only took someone 5 minutes to go find tweets where she said, just got off the phone with the Russian ambassador, just got done with a meeting with the Russian ambassador. So apparently, I don't want to be an ageist.
Maybe he's a forgettable guy, right?
Yeah, there you go. Maybe he's a forgettable guy. I'm going to play this last clip, and the phone lines are open, 857-600-0518. I want to play this last clip of Jeff Sessions letting us know that he is going to recuse himself.
I ask for their candid and honest opinion about what I should do about investigations, certain investigations.
He thinks
and
this is funny.
My staff recommended
smirking?
recusal. They said
Well,
that
you're gonna
since
get away
I
with
had involvement with the campaign, I should not be involved in any campaign investigation. I have studied the rules and considered their comments and evaluation. I believe those recommendations are right and just. Therefore, I have recused myself in the matters that deal with the Trump campaign.
All right. So he's stepping down from any type of investigation with regard to Trump. I think he's getting off easy. I think he's getting off easy, and that had anyone else lied, I mean, non-official, let alone an elected official or an appointed official, anyone else would be charged with perjury.
Ben, why did he? Maybe I'm misremembering the quote, but why didn't he volunteer to say that he hadn't met?
He volunteered. It wasn't even.
Yeah,
it wasn't even the question posed. So it's like what's the saying? Hurt dog hollers. I forgot the saying, but anyway, the guilty man always tells on himself is essentially.
Right.
Essentially what it is. Let's see what the callers have to think. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and/or question?
Hey, Ben, it's me, Bryce.
Hey, Bryce, how's it going, man? What's on your mind?
Well, I mean, this is very interesting. I listened to QIT today. It seems feel like Trump not going to last more than 6 months because, of everything that's going on. And, I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's right. Or I'm not saying it's wrong or whatever. Because like you said before, we know that there is some posturing. There is some, Democrats are kind of using this a little bit overboard, so we do understand all that, especially as progressives. But if Trump is doing something with Russia, money-wise, or certain things he might do, that, I guess, like you said, it might not be a big deal, but if things keep, I guess, escalating to, or just say if Sessions end up dropping out because there's a lot of pressure for him to do that, he might not do that. But if he did that, and people start dropping, and have to resign, then that's not good. I mean, he could be out very quickly because it might not be like like the big he hacked or the hacked or whatever the case may be, but you're involved with another government. That kind of goes against our quote unquote democracy, and he's not going to last that long because of that.
Well, it depends. And again, thanks for the call, Bryce. It really depends on what that conversation was about, right? And he has made it. He's made his bed, and now we should find out what that conversation was actually about, because we need to know why was it something that he felt like he had to either it was so forgetful that he honestly forgot about it, which I doubt, or it was something he felt like he shouldn't divulge at the time. So now we do as a nation have a right to ask, okay, what was in that conversation? Somebody should get him in a deposition to find out what it was, and that requires a full-blown investigation.
Right. Well, to me, I keep going back to the idea that we have been trained to look for the deception. I mean, just the two-facedness of the administration up to now, right? The willingness for them to tell us things that aren't true, right, makes us potentially think that this is strategic, that they're trying to create chaos, that And who knows, right? It could also be attributed to incompetence. This could be a very honest, simple mistake. It absolutely could. But how do you take it like that, given the pattern that's been established across the past few months?
That's a good question. It boils down to malice versus incompetence. The result is the same, right? Yep. We get people who have been dishonest with us almost before he even took the oath of office. Right. So is it malicious? To me, it's hard. You know me, Matt. I push back hard against anything that feels or smells like a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And this idea that Trump is the Manchurian candidate for Russia is a conspiracy theory. Like, it ranks up there with great conspiracy theories of the past.
Yeah.
Right. So my natural gut reaction to that is, no, he's not the Manchurian candidate for Russia. This is good political fodder for the Democrats. I don't blame them for doing what they're doing. This is what you do with a political football.
It's what a lot of Democrats have been calling for them to do for a while, right?
Yeah.
Right, to play dirty. And there might be an extent to which that's happening.
Exactly. If you want them to beat Trump and you think he's an actual fascist, then don't complain about their tactics now, because this is exactly what the Republicans would do. So it's politics. It's dirty politics. It's going to happen. But more importantly, I think to me, it just seems like comparing notes and saying, hey, we're both far right leaning, xenophobic, nationalistic bastards. We like each other. To me, that's okay. That's a possibility. But there's really the issue at hand that everyone wants to have an investigation around is whether or not Russia, or how and to what extent and what happened with them hacking and getting involved in our election. And I don't see there being any direct benefit for Russia communicating with the Trump campaign to pull that off, nor do I see any direct benefit for the Trump campaign to get involved. Those two things can happen in complete isolation, and both exist at the same time.
Yeah, they probably work better if they happen in isolation.
Right. It's plausible deniability, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's. I think that the thing you said about the sort of nationalist. Ethno-nationalist racist bastards, that's troubling in a different way.
Yeah.
Not in a legal way. Yeah, no, I tend to think you're right. If in fact they did have to collude, that would be incompetence. Right?
That would be if they had to compare notes on how we're going to be better racist, or how we're going to get this,
right.
Or if Russia needed the Trump campain to help them with the hack, what the hell is Russia doing involved in anyone's election?
Based on the way that campaign ran, if you were looking for them for organizational,
you're in trouble from the beginning.
And the Russians have proven adept at doing this, and lots of countries are adept at doing this. I tend to agree that there's no Occam's razor calls for no conspiracy here, right? There's absolutely no need to assume that in order for these two very like-minded administrations or potential administrations to work in concert, they don't need to talk to each other necessarily, right?
And at the same time, both of them could be guilty of what they're being accused of. Jeff Sessions could have had this meeting and talked something inappropriately and lied about it. At the same time, it could have had nothing to do with the hacks. And I know what I'm asking for is for people to be reasonable at an unreasonable time. But the most reasonable thing here is that Trump is not the Manchurian candidate. Trump is really just a feckless buffoon who kind of stumbled into an opportunity that the Democratic Party opened up wide for him. So let's take this next caller real quick. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, or question? Yep, you're up.
Hey, Benjamin, this is Steve in Washington. Thank you for taking my call.
Hey, my pleasure.
I think I agree. I don't think there's some big conspiracy at hand here. The way I see everyone that keeps getting caught red-handed with all these Russia questions is they look like they're acting like children who are trying to cover up some big lie. In my opinion, the big lie is just probably something like Donald Trump owes an innumerable amount of money to Russian oligarchs or something like that.
Yeah.
But there's no reason for them to lie. They're acting like children. Like children who are trying to cover up a big lie, you can catch them in a bunch of little lies constantly, because they're so nervous and they're trying so hard to cover up this big lie. And so I don't think that what Sessions' conversation was anything damning or anything. Honestly, I don't even think the conversation was probably anything important, but he's probably, along with everyone else that keeps getting caught, just trying to cover up something bigger. And they are children. They're acting like it. So
And
I don't know. That's my
I
theory.
think that's a great take, right? Thanks for the call, man. That's actually a great take. So I think that's the closest to the reality at this point, in my opinion, right? So, let's say Trump, and this is why he's not releasing his taxes. Let's say Trump is in for hundreds of millions with Russian mobsters, or if someone's connected to the Russian mob, or just Russian banks. There's any number of things that we can speculate because he has not released his taxes, and any type of connection connected to the Russians, rather, is something that they're all, squeamish about. They're setting themselves up for failure by not just being forthcoming about it versus trying to control and this is what they do. They want to control every news cycle and everything that's said about them. And when you micromanage your image like that, you're bound to fall into these types of traps.
Well, I mean, one thing, I think that call was probably right on. It's something along those lines. It's important to note that there's no reason to believe that Sessions knows whatever it is that's being hidden.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. So when he's sort of reaching back in his head, trying to decide what to do, part of what could be there is, I don't know if there's something to hide. This guy has not been forthright with the people. He probably hasn't been forthright with him.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't know what's in his tax returns. He doesn't know what to cover up. Part of the reason that children, are bad liars. It was a good take from the caller. Right. Part of it is they don't really know what the scope of the lie is and what the significance is.
Yeah.
And so as a result, they're going to defend things that don't need defending and hide things that don't need hiding.
And what's amazing is that the best comparison that we have to understand Jeff Sessions' screw up. Children help.
Yeah.
Children
are really useful.
Because this has really boiled down to being something that it could be absolutely nothing, or it could be so big that you actually need the parents to come in and get involved. Just tell us the damn truth. We'll take a couple of more callers on this, and then we'll shift gears. But I want to share a couple of things here. I want to share tweets that Donald Trump literally sent out while we were talking, and because I do my thing, I have it here already. On your screen now, this is Donald Trump. Jeff Sessions is an honest man. He did not say anything wrong. He could have stated his response more accurately, but it was clearly not intentional. This whole narrative is a way of saving face for Democrats losing in an election that everyone thought they were supposed to. Okay, damn it, Trump, there's another one. He takes forever. He hasn't sent I guess he's going to say supposed to have one.
Maybe that's not his medium.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, what time? How long? Yeah. So he just sent those out about 6 minutes ago. He obviously said something wrong, right?
Yeah.
He, could he have said it more clearly? That's neither here nor there. He lied.
Right.
He lied, whether intentional or unintentional. You still can be charged with perjury.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen in this case, but it's that simple.
No, it's interesting to see Trump tweeting. He's benefited many times from bad story comes out and then a new sensational thing comes out, right? And the page turns, we move on, we pay attention to something frivolous as opposed to something serious. Here, actually, he had his big quote-unquote triumph the other night.
Right.
Right, and finally he's sort of getting a taste of his own medicine with this, and that is something that it may be big deal. It might be something else we don't know, but it's undercutting his media moment, which is something that we saw sort of benefit him over and over again. When something negative would happen, he would do something sort of significantly bad, and then something silly would come up, right?
Yeah.
Some debate over the Hamilton cast or whatever would come in and steal the show. Here, his thunder's been stolen by something on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take one more caller on this issue, and then we want to shift gears. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and/or question? 601, you're
John
live.
from Mississippi.
Hey, John, what's going on, man? How's it going?
Hey, I just want to give a big thank you to Senator Joe Manchin for not joining with the rest of his Democratic colleagues back when it came time to vote for against Sessions. And I hope he really enjoys all the egg on his face that will result. Because, I mean, with me, and I was on the anti-Manchin kick a long time ago, he's not even helpful to the Democrats. Like, I understand, like the argument that, well, you need centrists because some states you're just going to have centrists in order to make. What he has done us no good.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen where he's done us a lot of procedural good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so why sully your brand that way? To me, it's that we've crossed the Rubicon. He's primary.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks a lot for the call, John. I was speaking with Eugene Purier. Purier. Sorry, Eugene. I always mess up your last name, but I was talking with him on Radio Sputnik today. The Russia propaganda machine. We're all owned by Vlad. But anyway, I digress. And he was saying that the pattern of the Joe Manchin's behavior pattern almost suggests that he's getting ready to turn coat and become a Republican. And even though we're worried about the numbers and the balance in the Senate, there's really no point for Joe Manchin to stick with the Democratic caucus because, like John, the caller, said, he's yielding zero benefits for the Democratic caucus. Across the board, he's in a lot of ways sabotaging Democrats, even with Jeff Sessions. What do you think?
I don't think, given the position that they're in, right, where they can't actually do anything, right? They couldn't stop any of the appointees. It's hard to say what the benefit is. You could see a borderline case where you need that vote, and it could be of some use. That said, the way things are set up now, it's functionally not very valuable. And there is the caller mentioned the question of the brand. I think there's something to that. I wonder what use he would be as a Republican either. It seems like he might be sort of stuck in between those two places, right? It seems like they likely the Republican Party in West Virginia, I would guess, would want to run to the right of him. But maybe they'd take the turncoat as a sort of a trophy.
I don't. That's a good question. That's a good point. What use would the Republicans have for him anyway? So
if he could win, then
if he could win, and he would probably pull over whatever blue dog Democrats are left there. So all I know.
Primary though.
Yeah,
a Republican primary. Seems,
this is true.
Who knows? I'm not an expert in West Virginia.
I don't think strategically it actually bears out, but I think the moral of the story is go to hell, Joe Manchin. Nobody needs you. Nobody needs you. Nobody wants you. Anyway,
it could literally be nobody wants him. Right? Yeah, it's not clear to me that either side necessarily wants him.
That's a good take. All right, let's shift gears here. A couple of other stories. I don't know. Part of me, we're already 37 minutes in, and I have an interview. This is our interview. We've done our interview because I got another interview coming up with Sahil Habibi of the Progressive Army. We'll be talking to him momentarily. So let's do this. Let's take this caller who has been patient, and let's see what do you have to say about this Jeff Sessions and Russia. 213. You're live on the air.
Hi, Dennis. Hi, Ben. This is Elise from Oakland again.
Hey,
I would say I just have two comments to make.
Mm-hmm.
One is that maybe our focus in thinking about the lies of this administration, and particularly around Russia, it needs to be less on Trump and more on Bannon, and to think more broadly about what kind of vision he brings to the administration and how that might mesh with whatever he thinks Russia represents for him. So that's one. Two, I think that I think it's a mistake to frame it as the lies as acting like children. And the reason I think that, not because children don't lie, a 4-year-old, she lies all the time. So in amazing ways, in fact. But I think it's a way of depoliticizing the lie, and that they are deploying lies in very for political purposes.
Yeah,
it is a strategy, and so instead of thinking, oh, they're just liars, or they can't keep up with their lies, it's to think more. I think deeply about how lies are serving their purpose, whatever that is, and how that's being played out. So I would caution against that. But, so thank you for letting me make a comment.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for the call. I mean, this is basically your take, Matt, is that this is part of a bigger equation with the Trump administration.
Yeah, no, and it's part of what they have been trying to create a misinformation sphere, right? In which it's very hard to establish basic facts, and you can't make strong arguments if you don't have basic facts. And again, I mean, I keep going back to it. The Russians are really good at this too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does not seem coincidental, or maybe it is coincidental, but it seems too coincidental that we have these particular, whenever they get caught in these lies, which is to suggest that they have told more of them, right, that we're catching them in these, right, it does so often have to do with Russia. It's really hard for, again, speculating.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I can't deny that. I mean, everything they're getting caught up on is Russia.
Is Russia. And you know, I mean, I certainly do not want to speculate on specifics and something bigger, bolder, but I do know that it's a strategy that the Russians employ and that they seem to be mimicking it. And in this case,
so I guess for me, this is why I don't trip over Russia, right?
No.
And I don't. And I caller, I take what you said to heart. I hear you. But whether it's malice or incompetence, the end result is still something that we should fight against tooth and nail. Like, you know, with all ferocity. Like, I don't need Russia to be the thing that finally gets Trump. I don't care what the thing is that finally gets Trump, because he's doing so many things. Like, for instance, let's take Jeff Sessions in specific. Whatever conversation he had with the Russian ambassador, it's not as bad as what he's doing on voting rights. It's not as bad as what he's doing on for-profit prisons, what he's doing against transgenders, you know, it's all the things that he's doing that's genuinely hurting people. Those are the things. So, I mean, for me, people come to me and say, oh, okay, well, it was an honest mistake. I'm like, I don't care. He lied. Boom.
Right.
You know, out of office. Yeah. Right. You know, or somebody say it's a huge conspiracy. I don't care. You know, he lied, out of office. I don't care if it's big. I don't care if it's small. I don't care if it's a huge conspiracy or if it's just him being, you know, forgive the ageism. Maybe he's just old. I don't care what it is. What he's actively doing that we visually see and can count and measure is so detrimental to America that whatever the excuse, he messed up, he lied. I don't care what the reason. He needs to go. He needs to resign.
Yeah, no, I think that is a very practical and entirely reasonable in this current moment, right? The idea of giving the benefit of the doubt seems past its time, particularly on the left, right? It just seems like that gets you every time. So no, we don't need to scare up the Russian thing terribly. We can point to a very simple law that he has broken. But going on the principle that there's somebody we want to get rid of, he has done something clearly wrong. You're not inventing it. Right, nobody's saying that you should honeypot him, right? Yeah, this is something that he walked into on his own. He
made the mistake himself.
He
volunteered.
He seemed to volunteer it, right?
He did. Yeah.
If he does this in that position, if you are fighting for what you believe in, you take that opportunity.
Yeah, no questions asked. Like I don't, and this is where I jump off the ship with anyone from the left, the further left, the progressive, people who are more upset about the Russia fear-mongering than they are the lies. The thing, the way where our part ways with them is that he did it. Yeah. There's really no question. There's no high lower in between. Why are we trying to parse the nuance of what he meant to do or he didn't speak it clearly? It doesn't matter, right? If you're on the left or you're progressive or you fancy yourself to be a Democrat or however you identify, what Jeff Sessions has done already should be enough for you to never give him the benefit of doubt on anything else. It's like people saying, let's give Trump a chance. I knew better than to say that before Inauguration Day. If I see one more person say that after this first month, then they no longer belong in the conversation politically, because everything that we've given Donald Trump a chance to do has been damning to a lot of marginalized groups and America as a whole.
Well, Trump's record is at least confusing. Right, he's contradictory. Jeff Sessions is not confusing.
Very clear. It's very clear.
Not confusing at all.
Yes.
Right, there's absolutely no reation to give a chance there. Right, and look,
or mercy. I'm sorry. Let me jump in
mercy.
There. Let me jump in there. Or mercy. If this is a dirty game. By nature, by the very definition, politics is one of the most disgusting, dirty games that you could ever be in. Why would you give mercy to a person who would never show you mercy?
Well, this isn't dirty, though. Right?
No, the politics in general.
Politics in general are dirty. But here's the thing. You don't have to be dirty in this case.
Right.
You have the Attorney General who is on record, right? If you're the Attorney General, I assume you think perjury is serious. However, he
clearly does.
Yeah, but he gave us the extra bonus step of actually going on and making a big deal out of it and pointing to that fact, right? That's not necessary. That's not playing dirty. That's calling fouls, right? That's just calling the rules as they are. And why would you not call them as strictly as you could in this context? I mean, absolutely. If you could be accused of making something up, yeah, you might want to avoid that because you lose credibility moving forward. But if you're just setting a precedent that if an attorney general lies under oath, he gets fired, I think anybody can live with that.
That's pretty clean,
Everybody
clear
can live
cut.
with that.
We should be done with the conversation. But what happens is you have this reactionary left. I'm trying to find the right name to call them. You have this faction of the left that no matter what comes out about Russia, and thank you for that. No matter what comes out about Russia, it's going to be like Donald Trump has tweeted. And actually, let me toggle that. Donald Trump is tweeting basically the same talking point that you'll get from some of our friends on the left. And I use that term, they are my friends. But, the justification that no matter what happens with Russia, people are always going to say there's going to be a group of people who always say that this is just about the Democrats trying to excuse themselves for losing a campaign that they should have won. I think we're past that point at this juncture. I think everybody has fully accepted the fact that we lost, right? To differing degrees, mind you. But this conversation is about your attorney general, the guy who's going to put people in jail for carrying around a couple of grams of weed, right? But doesn't seem to think that his own personal perjury is significant enough for him to step down. Why would anyone, right or left, but certainly on the left, grant mercy to this guy who is itching for the chance to put as many people in jail as he possibly can so that private prisons can profit off of it?
Yeah. Well, the precedent you don't want to set here is that this is okay, right? There's some fear, I suppose, of setting a precedent of going nuts over every time Russia is mentioned. And that could be a problem, right? But the far greater precedent is allowing people in this administration or any administration to push the clear boundaries of the law, right? Move them a little bit out of the way until they go where they want.
Well, I'm going to push back there. People are getting, some people have been getting away with perjury. We really don't. There's a lot of politicians who should be sitting in jail right now that absolutely would never see the inside of a jail ever.
Well, that doesn't mean they wouldn't lose their job for perjury, right? I mean, I'm talking perjury under oath. We're not talking about lying to the American people, right?
So, okay.
Which is,
I might, let me see. I'm trying to think if I'm going to concede that point to you. Do they still have their job? That's the question. Do they still have their job? Well, I have to go back and look at their
I don't have a comprehensive knowledge either. But if they, look, and there is something to the fact that it is an attorney general, right? It is a person who is a law enforcement person. I mean, look, there should be an investigation, right? Yeah. I mean, there are facts to be found here.
Well, let's do this. And I don't mean to cut you off, but I've gone so far over time. 347, the caller that's on the line. I promise I will get you before the end of the show, but I do need to make way for our interview with one of the writers from the Progressive Army. And we want to pull them up here so that we can get that conversation going. But, there's a lot to cover on that particular story. And I'm over here trying to multitask. I'm trying to download have you ever watched Transformers, the original movie, the 1986 movie?
With Orson Welles as the planet? Yeah.
So there's a scene in there where Optimus Prime is fighting Megatron, and Megatron does this thing where he actually starts pleading for mercy. And Optimus Prime says a line that I've stuck with me since 1986. He says, "How can you, who never shows mercy, now beg for mercy?" And I'm like, this is what people are asking us to do with Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions would see every person with a joint in their hand in jail, but they want us to have mercy with him with regard to him making a mistake or forgetting or being forgetful or whatever no, you live by that standard, you die by that standard, politically speaking. All right.
Hey, Ben.
Yep.
You can be my Optimus Prime.
I wish I had the camera on you when you said that. The camera wasn't on you. All right, let's jump right into the interview. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to the show for the first time one of the newest additions to the Progressive Army, a young guy. And we'll let him tell us his age if he wants to. But he has been writing with the Progressive Army now for a few months, and he has his own YouTube channel that I definitely want you to check out. Sahil Habibi, how's it going, man? Thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, Ben, how's it going? I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing good. So I've read, obviously you're writing over there at the website that I'm one of the managers of, and I've read your work. You have a great voice, and I've seen some of your videos. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, and then, give me like 30 seconds about you, and then I want to jump into your article about the DNC.
Okay, so so I'm a writer at the Progressive Army. I also have a YouTube show currently. It's called The Progressive Voice. I like to make videos breaking down what's going on in the news. Find it a great hobby, and it's just something that I really enjoy doing. And I plan to continue moving forward doing that. And
cool.
That's pretty much it.
Cool. So you wrote 2 articles. Well, you've written quite a few articles, but 2 that I want to touch on a little bit now.
Right.
The first one is about the DNC and the recent election of the chair, that they didn't elect anyone from the Sanders wing of the Democratic Party. And you have some reasons as to why, and you have some solutions, or not solutions, but some observations. Tell us about your article.
Okay, so in the article, first of all, when I saw the information, I was quite alarmed personally because I felt that, after a loss, because of the progressives feeling that they were shunned, and they were rightfully, they were cheated, I figured that, hey, you need to have some representation of it to be able to win. But once I saw it, I was kind of alarmed to see that, hey, there's only superdelegates, Obama administration officials, Hillary campaign officials. The treasurer is literally an investment banker. So it was pretty clear that it was the establishment trying to fight back against the Sanders influence.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they succeeded. And I'm afraid that because there's a poll recently that came out in January that showed that 28% of people believe that they could concern them or align themselves with Republicans. They consider themselves Republicans. Only 25% consider themselves Democrats, and 44 consider themselves independent. So that is a result of centrism. And if there are less Democrats in the country and they elect someone like Hillary Clinton, again, like maybe a Cory Booker or whoever it may be, we're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
basically,
it just legitimately worries me.
Yeah, based on some of the numbers that you just threw out there, running Cory Booker in 2020 would almost ensure. We do have Donald Trump is an outlier. But if, let's say, Donald Trump starts conforming to be a normal president, a normal human being, let's say, because if he doesn't, then I think they could run the 10-man, and the 10-man could win. But let's say Donald Trump starts behaving like a decent human being, or not even decent, just not an asshole. Based on the numbers of people registered as Democrats, if we run a centrist like Cory Booker in 2020, it's a good chance Donald Trump will be here for 4 more years, based on what I'm reading here.
Well, absolutely, because clearly with Hillary Clinton, who is one of the biggest name recognitions in the country, Democrats were still not able to win. So it worries me more because the fact that Hillary Clinton was able to lose with such a supposed lead, imagine how hard it would be for her to win against someone who, as you said, hypothetically wouldn't be an asshole if she already lost. And the Democrats are so marginalized in the first place.
Yeah, we are coming from a very marginalized position. I would agree. The only thing I'm concerned about is that Donald Trump may very well mellow out and not be as disgusting as he is on a regular basis, and that will really fool a lot of people into being comfortable with the idea of him being president for 8 years. But your second article is really one that I'm definitely interested in. You're talking about first, congratulations on the first article. I mean, it's you have like 28,000, 30,000 views on that article. That's a great read for any website, even our small website. That's a great read. But you have another article here talking about to neoliberals that Bush is not better than Trump, and this is the gospel truth, man. This is something that blew me away. Bush was on Ellen DeGeneres today, and it's like we're going back to normalize the guy who destabilized the world order. Well, not the world order, but the world, at least for a generation. Tell me about that article.
Okay, so. Of course, George Bush, he's a guy who really, in my opinion, puts money interest over anything else. And because he's been coming out, and I think quite opportunistically, personally, him coming out saying that, I don't like the quote racism and all that, I think it was very opportunistic, but it just shows you the problem with neoliberalism and how quickly people are able to jump. And Trump's only been in office for 1 month, and you're already going to say that Bush is somehow better when we spent 8 years. We got the literally greatest economic crash since the Great Depression. The Iraq War, which led to thousands of American soldiers dying, hundreds of thousands, and this count ranges from about 100,000 to 1,000,000 Iraqi civilians killed in the war. The massive debt that we take on while they continuously say, hey, you can't have education, you can't have single-payer healthcare. So this guy, and I go into talk about the Hurricane Katrina incident, and I kind of cite some statistics that say that that African Americans were majority affected by it, and it kind of was tapping into the point that FEMA and George Bush didn't really care, and they didn't really do anything because of that. And also the whole scandal of him getting in office in the first place with the Bush v. Gore Supreme Court case. By most accounts, practically you looked at it, and the majority of the places, the caucuses in Florida that had voter rolls purged were African American, because they knew that they were going to vote. Yeah, so they knew that they were going to vote Gore, and they specifically made these things called like butterfly ballots, where even Pat Buchanan of the Reform Party came out and said, yeah, it's pretty clear that they're going to mess up because of the wordage and the verbiage of this ballot. So this idea that we can just forget everything Bush did, and I mean, it's just, to me, utterly ridiculous, and I can't believe that people are saying it. Maybe if we waited till the end of 8 years of Trump, and there really was a lot of things, but to say that 1 month of Trump is worse than 8 years of George Bush, I think is absolutely obscene.
It's unbelievable. I don't think, first of all, before I say another word, man, you're great. Great analysis, spot on. I agree with every single thing that you said, especially about Bush. I mean, there's just no way that you could put them side by side. And I don't think that even after 4 years or even 8 years of Trump, the things that George Bush has done to the world are hurting millions of people and have been hurting us for 2003 so 14 years. 14 years of George Bush's ideological war and this war on terror has devastated so many lives globally. And now Democrats and liberals and neoliberals are embracing him like he's the voice of reason. I mean, I get it. What he said about Trump is true, but he should still just stay away from the public eye, go to his basement and paint for the rest of his life, and never leave the country because somebody might want to arrest him, depending on the country. But listen, thanks so much for your time, man. I want you to get the last word, but most importantly, tell everyone how they can get up with you and find your work.
Thanks so much for having me on, man. You can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/the Progressive Voice. You can check out my articles on Progressive Army and follow me on Twitter @Progress Voice. I really appreciate coming on, and I hope to once again, man. Thanks.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks so much for being here. That is Sahil Habibi. And if I pronounced it wrong, man, charge it to my head, not my heart, man. All right. Thanks so much for joining us. All right.
Thank you very much.
857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. Matt, what do you think about that young man right there?
Oh, very impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, hard to disagree with much of what he put out there.
Yeah.
I think it's worth noting that there is this incredible tendency for former presidents to gain in popularity over time.
Yeah.
I remember in high school, people, Nixon gets sick, and all of a sudden,
people care.
People care, right? And whereas I had grown up with just Nixon being the absolute representation of everything that's wrong in America, all of a sudden he kind of gets a little removed from power. You forget, or at least there's stuff that happens in the middle, and it sort of fades away. I mean, Bush was an affable guy, and that's to say nothing positive about his
policies, but just
But he's an affable guy. So if you kind of forget that he completely destroyed the world, he's he's the guy you want to have a beer with, right?
Right. Even still,
sure,
likable guy, but some of the most likable men, but have been some of the most devastating
for sure.
people in world history, and George Bush is up there.
Right, and we shouldn't mistake Trump's unlikableness, which is infinite. It's whatever. It's incalculable, right?
Yeah.
For the damage that Bush did, the odds to my mind, I hope what I'm saying right now is true. It seems so unlikely to me that Trump will be given the golden opportunity to destroy the universe that Bush was given.
Yeah.
In order to do equal damage.
Yeah.
It's already been done.
It's been done. You can't go back and destabilize the balance between Iraq and Iran.
Right.
You can't go back and destabilize the brutal dictator that Saddam Hussein was, but keeping the sectarian insanity in check, and then not having a solution after the fact. Right? Even if you take them out, they didn't have a solution. There are so many things that are directly connected to George. So much blood on George Bush's hands that he should not be able to get on anybody's show without us boring him, because people are still dying in the war that he started. Yeah. I mean, as idealistic as Obama claimed to have been when he went into the White House, he could not get us out. I mean, we're stuck in there, and now it's going to be stuck for the Donald Trump administration. And you're right, he can't re-break what was already broken. I mean, he could. I'm sure there's other things that he could screw up really good, but we're not going to give him the chance to. Whereas I don't know what the hell happened, but we gave George Bush a blank check to destroy the entire world.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a conundrum in this, in that Trump exists in part because of the world that Bush broke, right?
Yeah.
We look to Europe, we look at the rise of right-wing nationalisms, right? Part of that story is, of course, the destabilization of the Middle East, and the war on terror, and this encourages both refugees and xenophobia and all these other things, right? This all comes from Bush. I mean, we got 8 years in the middle with Obama that we need to account for, but the brokenness, the sort of inevitability of the crises that we see now, it's hard not to point back to 2001 and 2003 as the moments in which these were set into motion.
I'm trying to think. There's a historical parallel, and maybe I'll get it after this caller. But how we see, looking in hindsight, we see that this individual actually was a person that changed the world. Actually, I think it was Archduke Ferdinand, and the assassin who actually ended up being the person to kill him out of all the assassins that showed up, and how this one guy who was, for all intents and purposes, insignificant, has the most impactful influence on world history. And I think once we get a little bit more separated away from George Bush, if we don't rewrite history like we're doing right now, we have a revisionist history taking place right now with this normalization of George Bush. But if we take a step back and look, George Bush, maybe not to the scope of World War I, clearly, but in the sense that he has destabilized an entire region, which has the ability to destabilize the West. I mean, for at least, I don't see it being any shorter than 20 to 30 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure the World War I comparison is so terrible in terms of the utter disruption of both global politics and the death toll.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of dead and displaced when it comes to the Middle East. It is interesting, though, that this might be part of the problem, right? You kind of do think of Bush as like one little guy in this thing, right? He was always thought to be sort of manipulated, and responsibility was, I think, sort of taken off of him in a lot of people's minds. Oh, Cheney's really running the country. Rove's really running the country. And I wonder if there's not a hangover effect from that, in which we spent all this time saying, oh, he's not the president. He's not the president. These guys are running it. Wolfowitz is running it. Cheney is running it.
Good.
That,
good
now it's so
We've
far back.
We
absolved him, right? It's kind of, back, we'd have his debates, and he would, not keel over and die in the middle of it, right? He'd speak English. It would make sense. And, he won the debate. He beat Kerry, right?
Exactly what we're doing with Trump now.
Well, right. This is a dangerous thing to start setting up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take this last call. This is the last call of the night, and then we're out of here. Caller, thanks for calling back, 347. Let me take a chance. Is this Umar from Brooklyn?
It's Umar from Brooklyn.
Hi, I hit it right. Umar, what's on your mind, man?
There is a flip side to this that I noticed because I actually paid attention this time as soon as the Sessions thing came up. Yesterday, when these things happened, the anti-progressives, as I call them, monsters, were the loudest voices you heard defending this crap. This has to be the first time that I saw people, at least who have a progressive leaning, being just as loud on almost everything, on Facebook and Twitter. I think I even heard somebody who I never even heard before Snapchat about this. And this is a good thing because it shows you that as I always said years ago, the problem with the bullies is they like the empty can. They roll down the street to make the most noise.
Yeah.
Well, now the cans that are filled are making the noise. And that's great. So I always like to tell people that, I understand the problem, but let's look at the other side too. Look at how much people came down on this and were more aware. And even I thought I would only hear the smirking part here. It's all over the place. People are like, wait a minute, this guy's smirking. Why is this guy being arrested?
Yeah.
Is this perjury?
Yeah.
From people who, and I'm saying it's noticeable. I really know it's a scary thought to think that the progressives say, well, if Trump gets in, it'll make people wake up. But isn't that exactly what happened? Just saying.
Hey, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. Folks, it has been a pleasure. Matt, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure, my pleasure. Tell everyone about your book that we've talked about before, but
I always bring it. You spend years writing a book, you want people to read it.
Absolutely.
So I've got this book called The Other Air Force. That's available on Amazon and everywhere else. This is based on my research in the West Bank and in Afghanistan, looking at American-funded media, mostly TV, film, radio. So we have these programs, maybe Trump will be cutting them, we'll see, but these programs where the U.S. government finds locals throughout the Middle East and tries to find partners to work on media projects.
Yeah.
Sometimes they make what looks like propaganda. Sometimes they do surprisingly sort of resistant things with that money, right? They don't do exactly what the U.S. is expecting them to do. And so this book takes you into that space and does some analysis, does some history.
Sort of like Russia Today, but overseas.
Yeah, it's complicated. Look, every country's got its propaganda strategy. This kind of lays out what America's been doing in the Middle East since 9/11, which has similarities to RT and it has some real differences. And in fact, I'll give away a copy.
Sure.
How about that?
All right. How do you want to do it?
If you follow me, anybody who follows me tonight on Twitter @MediaStudied.
That's a lot of copies, man.
No, I'll put in a random. We're
Oh,
going to give
random.
away a copy.
Okay.
Yeah, to be clear.
Okay.
If you follow me on Twitter tonight, then we'll do a randomization and I'll give away.
All right, so randomize it by 2. I'll buy one and give away the second one.
Excellent.
So whoever follows @MediaStudied on Twitter.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, cool. Sounds good. Folks, you have a great night. Bonus show will be tomorrow, full hour bonus show for all of our patrons. And you're still looking at him. Let me look at me now. Tomorrow, full hour bonus show for all of our patrons. If you want to become a patron, go to, you know what to do. The announcer will tell you. See you later.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.